Hello, my name's Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL graduates. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be going through our latest FPL drafts. Of course, we're another week down the line from our last video where we released our teams, and a lot has already changed. Yeah, if you want to keep up to date with our latest drafts, Patreon is the place to go. So check it out in the link in the description. Without further ado, let's get into Josh's team.
Yes, as Ben mentioned, lots of changes since the inaugural, I guess you could say, team reveals on here. Obviously, we will do our team reveals just before the deadline on Game Week 1 as well. So don't fear, you will see an updated version of these before then. Obviously, my plan at the moment is to still play the bench boost. That hasn't changed at the moment going into Game Week 1. I've mentioned it before, but I just want to get it out of the way. I don't appreciate the chip too much. I think it takes a lot of planning. So if I can get it out of the way to begin with, and typically I always wildcard quite early on anyway, I think it sort of marries hand in hand with this new chip strategy going into this season. So yeah, should be an interesting one. We'll start off in goal. We've got Alphonse Areola. I somehow have put him in here after watching him against Man United, where he dropped an absolute howler. But it's mainly just to cover off this West Ham defence, and the players that I like outfield in defence are better than the goalkeepers, and vice versa. So he's in goal. Whether he stays in goal is a different question because I think West Ham are being linked to lots of goalkeepers. Quite a few goalkeepers moving around in the market. Obviously, like Ramsdale to Newcastle, that could move Pope to somewhere. So we'll wait and see. Obviously, last season he wasn't nailed either with Fabianski at the club. So yeah, it's not set. It's not a set and forget for now. But 4.5 million keepers, there's not too much to choose from. So he's there at the moment, just mainly due to fixture. Van der Ven starts off the defence. Obviously, Burnley at home, Game Week 1. The doggy is injured and hasn't gone on pre-season tour, so I expect Van der Ven's ownership to definitely climb going into Game Week 1. I think it's a decent option. Is it amazing? Probably not, but it should hopefully solidify a clean sheet come Game Week 1. See, no Josh Brownhill for Burnley. They haven't really replaced the goals, well, the lack of goals anyway, that they had in their team. So I think from a defensive point of view, if you could target Burnley most weeks, then I probably would. Murillo is my most premium defender in this draft at 5.5. Brentford at home for the first game. Obviously, with the bench boost strategy, I'm going to basically set my team up for 3 game weeks and then try and wildcard over the first international break going into Game Week 4. In those 3 game weeks, Nottingham Forest have 3 really good fixtures. Murillo obviously does perform extremely well in the DEFCON as well. So if I can pick up, 8 points plus bonus most weeks from him, I'll be absolutely laughing. So yeah, happy to have him in there. Obviously, Colwill is rounding off the on-pitch defence. Colwill obviously facing Palace at home, first game week of the season. I'm not too big on Chelsea defensively for the first 3 game weeks. I think they are quite tough than what maybe the FDR suggests. Like I'd expect Palace to maybe go to Stamford Bridge and score. They've got the players to do so, especially if they do keep Eze. Obviously, with Colwill, doesn't carry the same attacking threat that a Cucurella does, and I don't really want to put a £6 million defender in there when I'm on the bench boost. So, yeah, he's probably one that's maybe question marked at the moment as to can I find better value there over the first 3 weeks out of my defenders. Obviously, on the defense, in the defense, on the bench, we've got Wan-Bissaka. He's highly owned. Obviously, hit DEFCON in the preseason game against Man United. Sunderland away. Obviously, Sunderland are making loads of great signings, and they do look quite good going into it. But I'd hope that West Ham can sort of nullify them. There's still not too much attacking talent being signed, only a Dingra really that I can name off the top of my head. So we'll wait and see. But a double up on West Ham, I'm not so keen on. We'll have to see if that stays there by Game Week 1. And then De Kuyper rounds off the defenders at least. Fulham at home. We spoke about him in our defensive video. High attacking threat. Whether that gets replicated in Brighton, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, they've got Kadioglu, who's been playing in pre-season. Jack Hinchelwood can play left back as well. So I do not feel he's nailed at the minute. We'll just need to see more of pre-season to sort of understand that. And then Kelleher is Kelleher. I expect Brentford to concede lots of shots, so hopefully he can get lots of saves. And obviously Nottingham Forest, not the best going forward, so I feel like that's a decent option for Game Week 1. I'll stop talking now, Ben. What's your thoughts on all those defensive picks?
Yeah, I think the defensive picks are decent. I do think there's an absence of premium defenders, but that is sort of going to be natural considering the bench boost is being played. You're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. You're going to have to sacrifice a more premium player in defence, midfield, or attack, and it's just been a case that defence is where it's been. I do think that is sensible to be doing because there's plenty of options at a cheaper price point within the defenders that will get you a hopefully substantial amount of points. I do think like all three of defenders playing, all five, sorry, are decent options, and you need to cover, all the bases possible, which you have done. You've only doubled up once on any given defense, which I think is good. If you can cover all bases in terms of clean sheets, and it's likely that you'll come out of this with a decent rank to start off this season. So yeah, all in all, a fairly decent start to the team.
Okay, then. So moving on to the midfield, then, and we do get a bit more premium. Starting off with Cole Palmer, first of all. I'm just hoping that he plays on the right hand side of that Chelsea attack. He's a much better FPL asset when he's playing there. Obviously, we saw last season when he plays in the middle, he doesn't get involved FPL wise as much. He's still integral to the way Chelsea play, but it's just not as good for FPL managers. So, yeah, fingers crossed he can start there. Obviously, he played the Club World Cup final there. And I think with the additions that Chelsea are making, they can afford to play him on the right rather than down in the middle. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. If he does start playing in the middle again, I'll probably ship him out fairly pronto, just because he's just not good value at 10 million for that sort of price point. 10.5 million, isn't it, this season? So yeah, it's an interesting one to sort of watch and see. Obviously, only 2 pre-season games for Chelsea as well to keep an eye on. Alcaraz is in there at 5.5 million. I think you can do a lot worse than him if they don't sign anyone going into game week 1. Leeds away should be a nice fixture for Everton. And their fixtures overall for the first 3 are actually quite good, which is obviously my sort of target window here. So yeah, I'm really happy to go with him. He was in our defensive midfielder video, should I say. And I ranked him second out of all of the ones under 6.5 million. So quite high stocks on him going into this season. Morgan Rogers is there. You need to have sort of limit the risk really with a bench boost game week 1 because we're going to be unsure on who will start. Morgan Rogers is just that. We know he's going to play pretty much every single game and every single minute for Aston Villa, even when we thought he was going to get rotated due to Champions League last season. He didn't. Mo Salah, captain, picks himself. Not going to change that. I have gone with Cody Gakpo to sort of upgrade that defence a little bit from maybe a previous draft. I don't think it was on YouTube, but it was definitely in the Patreon. I did have, obviously, Florian Wirtz there. So I've saved myself £1 million and put that £1 million into the defence. I think I had 4.5 million pound defenders in the previous draft with Wirtz in it. So yeah, spreading the funds around a bit. Obviously, the bonus with having Gakpo is that we should get Liverpool team news pre game week 1. So I should know if Gakpo will start or not. I don't expect him to get 90 minutes by all means, but I thought Gakpo at home last season was one of the best players performing at home at Anfield. So I thought it was well worth the risk. Sort of a risk, I guess you could say, but also the punt to see if he can outperform the likes of Florian Wirtz. What's your thoughts on the midfield, man?
Yeah, I think there's an element of risk with Cody Gakpo naturally, just given the sort of number of signings that Liverpool have made and whether he's going to be first choice. Albeit saying that Luis Diaz leaving, I do think that makes Gakpo pretty certain to start in game week 1, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. And yeah, in terms of the rest of midfield, barring Alcaraz, fairly template and expected. Yeah, I mean, with your squad structure, you're going to need a 5.5 million midfielder that's playing and hopefully getting sort of 70 minutes plus. So yeah, it's just a case of monitoring pre-season to get that 5.5 million pound midfielder that is starting.
Okay, then to round off the team, we go into our forwards then. And to be honest, I haven't changed my forwards, I don't think, since I made my first draft. These guys have sort of stuck in it ever since. I think that's 1, due to the lack of options, and 2, because I actually quite like all 3 of them as assets. So we'll start with Jarrod Bowen first. Obviously, Sunderland away is the main draw here. I think he could be someone that I probably look to offload when I get through game week 1's bench boost, just because the fixtures for West Ham after that aren't as good, but we're trying to capitalise on a newly promoted team fixture. The only thing is that I feel like Sunderland are probably the team that have improved the most through the transfer window. So that could change. I've got a triple West Ham here. I do not expect to have triple West Ham by game week 1 deadline. Whether Bowen's part of that, I'm not so sure at the minute. Solanke's up next. Obviously, Ben is high on Mohamed Kudus, as you were just seeing in the midfielders video. I'm quite high on Solanke. I think with Son potentially going, at least I don't expect him to start. That should give penalties to Solanke, which will be really intriguing at 7.5 million. Frank as well, when you just look at how Brentford played in the past, their striker has always scored goals, and they've always sold him for big money. Neil Malpai, Ivan Toney, Visser, like the list is endless. So Solanke, I feel like, will benefit from Thomas Frank coming into this team, and I'm hoping that starts from game week 1. Obviously, they've got City game week 2, Spurs, but Spurs have a decent record against Manchester City, and also we haven't really seen City the likes of the previous seasons when they were title contending. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. And then Danny Welbeck rounds off the attack. First sub, Fulham at home. Penalties, direct free kicks. I think he's going under the radar of a lot of FPL managers at 6.5 million. I genuinely, him and Strand Larson, there's no one else sort of competing at that price point for me. So yeah, very happy to have him on my bench. What's the thoughts on the attack then?
Yeah, decent spread of options in the attack there in terms of price points. Welbeck also in my draft, and I think he's definitely one that's under the radar at the minute. Solanke, the only sort of thing you'd say on that is he missed a preseason game for Spurs with a slight injury, so one to just monitor over the next week or so. And then, like I said with Bowen, he's going to be the talismanic figure. The fixture to start with is standout, so yeah, can understand why you'd be having him in your team. Okay, so moving on into my team, and start off in goal, we have got David Raya at 5.5 million. He's the cheapest entry point really for safe minutes in that Arsenal defence, which is why I've gone for him. Again, I think you can potentially get away without an Arsenal defender to start the season, just given the fixtures are a little bit tougher. But we have seen in those tougher fixtures, Raya pull off some really high double-digit hauls for Arsenal. He is a player and a keeper that comes up in big moments for them, especially last season. We saw quite a lot of the time he was cleaning up bonus points over the likes of Gabriel and Saliba. In the defence, we've also got Wan-Bissaka and Van der Ven. Whether there's a template for them or not, we'll have to wait and see. Wan-Bissaka is one that I'm sort of 50-50 on within my team at the moment, whether he stays in or not. I do think at that high percentage of ownership, I feel like he could drop in price after that Sunderland away game if West Ham concede a goal. So it's a little bit of a risk for me, especially if I'm not looking to wildcard until game week 7, 8/9. Cucurella in there as well. The attacking threat is definitely there for Cucurella. The minutes are definitely there for Cucurella, and I do think in that Chelsea team he is going to provide a lot of FPL points this season. From an attacking perspective, really good fixtures for Chelsea, so I'm fairly confident on him going into game week 1 as the sort of premium defender in the team. And then Mickey van der Ven rounds off the defence. Burnley at home is the standout fixture, and one that I'm looking to target. Like Josh said, he's not going to be sort of too explosive in terms of his returns initially, but I do expect over the course of the season, with Thomas Frank improving set pieces, etc. for Spurs, that Van der Ven picks up a couple of attacking returns this season as well. Josh, what's the thoughts on the defence?
Yeah, I really like it. I think Raya is a probably a pick that's again going under the radar because Arsenal United away is not an ideal fixture for game week 1, but I could easily see them keeping a clean sheet there as it stands. United still in the market for a striker, and I doubt that would sort of get over the line before game week 1. So yeah, I think I really like him, and like you say, he's the most assured minutes at 5.5 million. Cucurella, I love. I've seen the most goals out of all defenders last season, which is great. He's depending on how they set up Chelsea with sort of Gusto, if he plays or not. He can get really high and wide on that left-hand side. So, yeah, almost acts like a box-crashing midfielder at points when they are attacking, which is great. Wan-Bissaka is great as well. I think him and Van der Ven are probably two of the better £4.5 million defenders. So, yeah, overall, I really can't sort of judge that defence poorly. I think it's a great defence.
Okay, so moving on into the midfield, and we've got Florian Wirtz in there for Liverpool. Of course, their new £120 million man, I think, is going to be fairly secure in his minutes this season. He could play in a 10, he can play out wide, he can play a number of roles in this Liverpool team going forwards, and I think he's going to have a really good season. Of course, a lot of hype surrounding him, so let's hope he doesn't let us down, as sometimes players from the Bundesliga haven't quite performed how we would expect. Cole Palmer in there as well. Very similar to Josh in terms of Cole Palmer. Hopefully he plays sort of out wide, where he's most effective and most dangerous. Mohamed Salah, of course, as the captain. Don't think that's going to change before the game week 1 deadline. Morgan Rogers in there as well. Again, I think initially Morgan Rogers sort of was overlooked just a little bit by the FPL community. He's just so reliable in terms of minutes and returns. I don't actually think you can go without him to start the season. I know we say that players, no player can be essential, but he is fairly close to that point, just given like the value that we can expect to see. And then the midfield is rounded out by Kudus from Spurs. And like I said in the midfielder video, I do think if he can have a season like he did in his breakout year at West Ham, we could be pushing 20 goals and assists this season for Kudus. And it is a good opening fixture as well. Josh, what's the thoughts on the midfield?
Yeah, I really like it. Obviously, as I mentioned with my team, I'd love to get Verts in there, but can't quite afford it. And obviously, that's the luxury of not bench boosting game week one. I think even in training, he was playing up front with Ekatike. So God knows what Arnie Slot is cooking in training at the minute. Mohamed Kudus, I think, is a good option as well. I'm not as big on him as you are. I just want to see how he sort of fits into that Spurs team a little bit more. But I think he will provide good value at 6.5 million, no matter how he sort of really gets on.
Okay, so moving on to strike force and the bench, we've also got Welbeck and Solanke. So both myself and Josh do think that they are some of the stronger picks up top this season. Do think Welbeck definitely the more underrated player going into this season. And then looking at the bench, we've got Darlow as my £4 million keeper on the bench. We've got Daniel Munoz as well. Despite Palace's tough fixture run to start the season, I think Munoz, despite that, is going to be a fantastic option at 5.5 million. Of course, his DEFCON stats are pretty good for a fullback. Very, very attacking. Heat maps are incredible. So definitely one, outside the box to consider. De Kuiper as well. He's been in my draft since the game came out and hasn't come out of it yet. I do think he is going to be a really good option. And then finally on the bench is Krupi Jr. from Bournemouth, their new signing. I'll be honest, I don't know much about him, but it looks like he might get some minutes and looks like a pretty decent player. So he's that 4.5 million striker on the bench. And, he may not get many minutes in my team, but if he does start getting minutes for Bournemouth, they've got a really nice fixture run to start the season from game week 2 onwards. Josh, what's the final thoughts on the forwards, the bench, and the overall team?
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, the forwards are similar to me. I think Munoz is a great pick, and yeah, if you can rotate him in and out for those really tough games to begin with, I think he'll be a nice option. Krupi Jr. is an interesting one. He scored 20 goals, over 20 goals last season for Lorient in Ligue 1. So you'd expect he should get some minutes. I just think it'll be limited with Evan Nilsson definitely being first choice striker for Bournemouth. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's an interesting one. Obviously, no real risk there at 4.5 million. It's going to be a dead spot no matter what. So yeah, overall it looks good. I think the only thing that I'd be concerned about is maybe triple Spurs. Obviously, moving into game week 2 when they face City, you could definitely get away with playing a couple of the attackers though. Worst case scenario. So overall, yeah, looks really really solid. Okay, then. So that wraps up our latest team reveals going into obviously near the start of the season now. Like I say, we'll reveal our teams closer to the deadline just before on that Friday. So don't fear, you will see at least one of our most up to date team reveals then.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL graduates for more content just like this. I've been Ben,
I've been Josh.
and we'll see you guys
Next time. Have a good pre season, everyone.
But I'm not good.